Welcome to Cosmic Conversations, the podcast where spirituality meets real life. I'm Siobhan, your host, aka the Cosmic Coach, and this is a space where we are going to explore the layers of what make us truly who we are. There's going to be a series of solo episodes along with some incredible guests, a space where we can truly discuss the universe within us all. So I wanted to start off today's episode with just, I suppose, giving an update as to where I'm at right now in life. I love to share not only what I'm learning or what I'm going through, but also, my kind of spiritual side. And there's been so much lately in terms of the angels and my meditations and my healings that has just been, there's so much expansion and so much growth happening for me right now. And you're probably like, Siobhan, what the frick? But basically, I wanted to just fill you guys in on a little bit of that because we're going to be talking about the moon today. We're going to talk about, how the moon influences our emotions, the different phases of the moon and how we can work with the moon, why we should work with the moon. And you guys know I love the angels, so I will always call the angels in if I'm working with the moon, whether it's in a full moon circle or just in my own practice. It only felt right to start off today's episode with talking about the angels first. And yeah, I've just been going through, like, you guys know, if you listen to the angels episode, which is like the second episode of this series, I talk about my relationship with the angels and kind of when that developed, and it's always ongoing and always developing. And as of lately, I feel like I'm very much in my angel meditation healing era, and I've been doing a lot of self-healing, which I will admit I hadn't been very good at the last while, but I've really gotten back into that. I felt like they're like, no, you need to do your own healings. A couple of weeks ago, I actually had a healing done by my counselor, who's also an angelic energy healer, and she's incredible. She's done all of the levels. She's so spiritually connected, so profound. So I had a healing with her, and oh my God, like, to say it was incredible was I learned so much. I walked. So basically what we did is, and this is kind of what I would like to do with my clients, but what I did with her is we did like an hour and a half of counselling. So I went in and I was speaking to her about something that had been coming up for me, something that I was working through and wanting to release, kind of like this toxic or self-sabotage trait that I had. So we really looked into that, and then we did the healing, and my intention was to release that. And so it's like a counseling healing hybrid, and that's what I love to do with my coaching clients. You guys know I'm a life coach, so I have a very intuitive, angelic feel to my coaching too. And I have to say that's very much inspired by my wonderful counsellor. But anyways, we did the healing, and she planned on doing the healing for half an hour. I was meant to be there for 2 hours, so an hour and a half counselling, a half an hour healing. She did the healing for an hour and a half. I literally woke up and I got my phone and I was like to my partner, oh my God, I'm sorry, I'm alive. Like, he's like, where the hell is she? And obviously he knew where I was, but I was like, oh my God, it just like completely ran over. Oh, it was so amazing. So basically, I can't really remember a lot of it. A lot of it was just like colours and pulsating. I felt myself get out of my body. I was like walking around the room, looking at different things on like the shelf and where we were. And I was like, seeing her doing the healing on my body. It was mad. And then I think I just kind of potted off into the ethers, and there was so much hard stuff going on for me right now. And I feel like, we talked about it afterwards. And a big part of my mission here on this planet, on this earth, is heart-centered work, heart-centered healing, and helping people to heal through their heart. And as of lately, I've really been focusing on niching down in terms of what it is I focus on with coaching clients, with healing clients as well, with card readings, anything. And that's self-love. And self-love is really, I feel, my calling in this journey. And so, it made a lot of sense that I came through in my own healing, that that's what I'm here for. I'm here to the heart-centered healing. And Archangel Shamuel, who's the angel of unconditional love, works very well at the heart chakra. He or she came in really strongly through that meditation. It was so lovely. And I feel Shamuel is really strongly one of my guides at the moment and helping me with kind of navigating and figuring out this niche, this purpose, this role that I have. But basically, to go back to the healing, lads, I didn't want to come back into my body. That is why it took so long. The healing took so long because I didn't want to come back. She was like, Siobhan, you were gone and you did not want to come back. And you actually pretended to come back at one stage and I wasn't back. And I thought that was so funny when she told me that. But I was gone, and she said when I came back, it was like I came back and I was like, oh bye, like I'm gonna miss you guys, whatever. It made so much sense as she was saying that, because she said I came back in with loads of angels, and it was like I didn't want to kind of leave them type of thing. And so when I did come back in my body and she was sharing this with me, it made so much sense, because I get, and anyone else who's spiritual or maybe enjoys meditating, or maybe you just feel like you always had this weird sense of like not fully feeling like home here, or just feeling like a little bit different, or I always felt really drawn to the sky as a kid, and I always look at the sky and I'm like, oh my God, like who's out there? And so when I go into meditation, I just get this sense of like, oh, I'm home, like these are my people. And I remember in the healing, I remember not wanting to go back into my body, and I was like, just stay here, you guys. It's just all so fun and peaceful. And I remember one of the things they used to bring me back into my body, this sounds probably cray cray, but one of the things that the angels are doing, they're like, come on, come back into your body. They're like, as a human, like, oh, it's all this love and light here. Like, as a human, you get to experience all the emotions. You get to experience an array of emotions. Like, you have a body. You get to dance. Like, let's dance. And also, they're like trying to get me to like dance to go back and entice me back into my body. That's what, like, um. So when I was sharing this with her and she was sharing with me, I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Because I was like, yeah, I don't think I did want to come back. Like, no, obviously I love being here. It's not in a sense of like, I didn't want to be here. It was just a sense of like, I was so peaceful with them. But I came back, and I remember after that healing, I drove home, and I felt very floaty after. I had to go on ground after it, because I was so high up in the ethers with my guys, with the angels. And she actually told me when I came back into my body, and it actually makes me emotional thinking about it. She was like, you are an angel. Like, she's like, you're an incarnated angel here on the earth. And I was like, and obviously we all have an ego, okay? So obviously that's really nice for me to hear. Like, I'm an angel, like, woohoo. But it just felt more like I had been seen. Like, I felt really like I had been seen and I had been understood, as to maybe why I feel misunderstood, or why I feel like so strongly about certain things, or why I have this innate curiosity about like healing and the different layers to human beings, and how we can better ourselves, and how we can work through ourselves, and how we can align with our highest self to manifest, the life of our dreams and all this stuff. So it just really made sense to me that that's my mission as an angel, to do this heart-centered work. So anyways, as I was driving home, I was so floaty after it. I blared Taylor Swift. Okay, sorry if there's any Taylor Swift haters out here, but I mean, we don't have any space for hate in this world. Come on. Her songs are good. Blared Taylor Swift and screaming at the top of my lungs. But it was like I had to do that to like feel my body. I was like, okay, I need to feel my voice. I need to feel this body. I need to like, sing this song. And I remember like singing at the top of my lungs driving home. And as I was driving, it was like the evening time, and the sun was starting to set. And I remember like the clouds just parted and the sun shone through like onto my face, or shone through is the word, onto my face. And I was just like, oh my God, like I'm here, like I'm alive, like what a freaking privilege it is to be alive on this planet Earth. And anyone listening is probably like, what is she talking about? But I just had this such profound like appreciation for being alive and for being here. And I literally like started to cry. I was like, oh my God, this is so wonderful. And so yeah, I think after that I was really like, okay, I'm not going to dim to fit in anymore. I'm going to shine my light. I'm going to follow my purpose. And a big part of that for me as a healer, as a coach, even having this podcast, as someone who just likes to talk about these kind of spiritual, self-help, personal development topics, is I had this fear of being seen. I'm always afraid of saying something wrong. I don't want to offend anyone. I never want to offend anyone. I never want to say something that is conflicting for someone. I never want to say something that like is upsetting for someone. I'm okay with being wrong, but I don't want to be seen as wrong or a failure. And I guess that's just ego. But I don't want to share misinformation, of course, either. So I'm always very careful with what I am sharing. And a lot of what I'm sharing is coming from my own experience. So I guess that can't really be wrong. That's been a big thing for me in this whole process, is being seen, sharing my voice, is not wanting to be seen as wrong or a failure, or just being afraid to be seen. Because, when you're authentic and when you're being yourself, and very much so after that healing, I just felt like I just have to be who I came here to be. But when you're doing that, when you're being yourself, it's like there's no mask that you're hiding behind. If people are judging or hating or disliking, you're not hiding behind anything, so that's you. But it's being able to let that bounce off and having that kind of self-worth and that self-love, which is not purpose, and to not let that matter. And so after that healing then, oh my God, 1044 is a look up there. After that healing then, I went on a couple of days after, or a week after maybe, to a cacao ceremony with my friend Tara, by Tara J on Instagram. She actually was on this podcast. I can't remember the number of the episode, but it's the one on body image and disordered eating. But anyways, I went to her cacao ceremony and we did a meditation, we did Reiki, and it was so lovely for me to receive, first of all, because I'm usually always the one that's hosting those things, so it was really, really nice for me to just go and receive. And it all kind of connected and came through again about my purpose and being here and being this kind of, you know, heart-centered healer and helping to expand consciousness and raise the vibration of the planet as we move towards this new 5D, all of this stuff. But a lot of what came in, and my intention for that circle, was to be brave. And I feel like I'm talking in riddles here, but it was to be brave in showing up as myself, being brave in sharing these stories about my healings and my meditations and all of that. So this is what I'm doing right now. I'm being brave and I'm sharing this because I know some people will be like, what the hell? But I know that there's someone listening to this being like, I love that. That sounds so cool. Oh my God, I love that for you. And so thank you. And they're my people and I'm your people. And I hope that, you know, with this whole journey that I'm on, we get to connect more and we get to bring each other closer together. And I'm going to do that by hopefully sharing my experiences and my voice. So my intention for the cacao ceremony was to be brave. And I channel a lot during my meditations, but I actually channel, like when I stop my meditation, I channel a lot as I write. So I was writing afterwards, you know, what came up in the meditation, and I started to channel more. And I wanted to share what it was that I channeled because I shared it in the group and my friend Tara was like, you need to do something with that. Like, you need to share that. And it's only a small little snippet of my journal entry. And I remember my counsellor actually saying to me that writing is kind of, it seems to be a way of me. I mean, we all express ourselves through writing, but writing seems to be a way that I really connect with what I've just experienced in my meditation or what I've just learned. And so I want to share something for anyone listening. So this is a message for my fellow light workers, my healers, my mystics, my witches, and my priestesses. Anyone who's always felt a little bit different, a little bit drawn to the world outside them, not really sure what it is that's been calling them. This is for you. Be brave. Be fucking brave. Warrior. People will not like it. That's okay. You're teaching them a lesson too. Your people need you to be brave so they can be brave too. Use your voice. Be right, be wrong. Make mistakes. Learn and share it all. You're here now, Earth Angel, to be brave. Be fucking brave. So yeah, that was my little short snippet that I kind of channeled during that, was to be brave. And this is me being brave, sharing that and really honouring who I am and who I choose to be. And actually afterwards, as I shared that in the group with the cacao circle, it was Tara that actually said to me that she remembered learning before that being liked will cost you your intuition. And it's so true. Like, if you just try to keep everyone happy and, you know, dim your light and don't share things that maybe people question or challenge or think that you're absolutely crazy for saying, it's going to cost you your intuition, because your intuition is so connected to your authenticity as well. You know, it's the part of you that wants to just be and just be free and just be expressed. And so I really wanted to share that today, and I hope that resonates maybe with someone listening before we get into our talk about the moon. Because as I said, a big part of, you know, being me and being authentic is my connection with not only the angels but the moon and how I worship the moon, and I am a moon worshipper. And so let's get into that. So in pretty much every culture, the moon is seen as a divine feminine energy. So if we think about the sun and the moon for a moment, the sun is very much a masculine energy. What that means is, you know, the sun is charged, it's ambition, it's drive, it's go, it's upbeat, it's giving, it's action. And on the other side of that, there's the moon. The moon is soft, gentle, nurturing, going with the flow or receiving, and very much not pushing yourself, but allowing yourself to go with the rhythm of your own heart or your own inner world, I suppose. And so that's very much the moon's feminine energy that I resonate with, anyways. And the moon can be seen to kind of influence our emotion, our intuition. It also influences our menstrual cycle, which I'll talk about, the subconscious, and then your dreams. So a lot of the time people will say, like, around the full moon, like, you know how maybe your parents or something, or the old generations might say, like, oh, full moon, like she's going to be a bit mad or whatever. Or I'm pretty sure it's actually like proven that, like, I don't know if it's like crime rates or something like that, like actually goes up around the full moon because people are a little bit more like, whoa, their emotions are a little bit more charged. And so that is the full moon's energy. Like the full moon has influence over your emotions, over your subconscious, and over your inner knowing and your dreams and all of that. If you think about how, if you look at, like, if you think about the tides, the sea, okay, so, like, obviously it's to do with gravity and stuff, but like the tides come in and out, okay, and that's to do with the pull of the moon and the gravitational pull and all of that. I'm no scientist, so I'm explaining this like for a 5-year-old, okay. Our bodies are made up of 70% water. So if the moon is affecting the tides as much as we see in front of our eyes, imagine what it's doing to our own bodies and to our own inner being. And so the moon moves the tides not only around us, but within us too. So during the full moon, emotions peak. You might feel overwhelmed, unable to sleep, more sensitive, or on edge. I find, because if you think about the cycles of the moon, the full moon is at the end of the cycle. So it's been building, 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 and now it's at the end of the cycle. The full is moon, it's bright, it's strong. The full moon, sorry, is bright and it's strong. And I think that's, like, for me, it's really when things come to a head. If there's something that's been coming up within your relationship, if there's something that's been coming up in your job or just in your personal life, or a kind of a trait or a behavior that's not really serving you anymore, everything kind of comes to a head at a full moon. So it's really it's a time for you to look at that and release it. Full moons are so good at, they're so good for working with its energies through releasing. And it just brings it all to kind of that point of, like, what do you want to do with this? So that's why I feel, emotions are heightened. You might feel more emotional, like upset. You might feel more agitated, irritated, frustrated. It's all information, and it's about looking at, okay, where is this coming from? What's this connected to? I think is really important during the full moon. And on the flip then of that, we have the new moon. So the new moon is essentially when the moon is completely black and you can't see it. And your energy really draws inward here. You might feel more tired or introverted, and it's more time. It's a time that's better for deep reflection. So it's about looking at where you're at so far in the moon cycle, reflecting on, what's happened and where you want to go. It's kind of more about, for me, the new moon is very much about realigning, and the full moon is like, okay, releasing and calling it in. So that's kind of like my understanding of the full and new moon. And within my full moon circles that I have every single month, with my lovely friend Saoirse, so she does a sound bath and a fire ceremony, and with the full moon's energies I do an angelic energy healing / meditation, where we go on this whole journey of, like, really bring in our intentions, but then we bring in, okay, what is it that we want to release? What is no longer serving us? What do we want to let go of? What do we want to call in? What do we want to manifest? And so we go on a gorgeous journey with the angels, and it's different every single month, depending on, the different angels that want to come in, depending on the zodiac sign that the moon is in as well. Will also have different influence over the kind of energies that are coming up at the time. So it's always a really, really beautiful time to focus on what it is that you want to call in. So yeah, and if you've never worked with the full moon before, or even the new moon, I think the full moon kind of gets more attention, more hype, and I can see why. You can see it in the sky. It's very beautiful. And if you're ever near the coast, it looks like kind of like reddy orange. Sometimes it's like rising into the sky. It's just incredible. And so, the full moon, she gets a lot of attention. But the new moon is just as potent as well. It's such, any phase of the moon is potent, guys. But it's just kind of these phases that we are more probably charged energetically. And again, like, as I'm talking about the moon phases and like what each phase means, the full moon for the release and the calling in, and the new moon for kind of reflecting and realigning. You have to go what feels right for you too, because maybe during the new moon you might really feel like, okay, actually I really want to focus on letting go of something. And so trusting that your own intuition too when working with the moon's energies is very important. But in the angelic realm, the moon is watched over by Archangel Haniel. So Archangel Haniel is the angel of grace. And she's also the angel of intuition, which is no surprise because the moon is also very connected to our intuition, our inner knowing, our gut instinct. And so Haniel is someone who I always like to call in when I'm working with the moon's energies, or if I'm setting an intention to manifest or release during the full moon. So the way I see Archangel Haniel in my head is like Luna Lovegood. You know Luna Lovegood from Harry Potter? The really soft-spoken voice, that's how I see her. And she's just gorgeous energy. So she's a goddess, and like I said, she works with the moon's energies and is really, really nice at helping us tune into our intuition. So anyone who maybe is going through a spiritual awakening or feels like they're just more spiritually curious at the moment, or you're just trying to find something that you really connect with for your own inner good, for your own inner happiness, Haniel would be a really, really nice angel to work with, not only during the moon's, most potent phases, but also just throughout time and space, and whenever you feel drawn to calling her. Haniel also is really, for me, she's like a visitor of dreams. So I always find that she can kind of come to us in dreams with like really nice information or kind of guidance or insights. If I do a reading for someone, if I see Archangel Haniel come in, I'm like, okay, this person is like connecting, they're deepening their connection to their intuition, or they're kind of on a spiritual journey right now. And I'll always say that in the reading as well. So yeah, she's gorgeous energy to work with. And of course, she's so connected to the moon. But the moon itself has its own like sacred kind of energy connected to the Holy Spirit. And so when we work with the moon, it's always with the intention of connecting with, the highest self, or the highest good of the highest self, or the highest divine energy of the moon. So yeah, just to kind of go over again, the new moon is kind of like the void. The sky is dark, nothing is visible. It's a time to reflect, retreat, and plant seeds for the cycle ahead. Emotionally, you might feel low energy, sensitive, craving solitude. This is the soul's winter. So it's a time for gathering. I feel that the word gathering is coming in, like gathering your resources and like being like, okay, what is it that I want? And then on the flip that, the new moon, on the flip side of that, the full moon, everything is visible, everything is bright. You might feel wired, emotional, disrupted sleep. Oh my God. The most recent full moon, I could not sleep. I was like, what is going on? I just could not sleep. Again, it's just that energy, guys. It's pulling the tides within us. You feel ready to burst and bloom under the full moon. You want to go get those dreams, chase those manifestations, whatever it is. Celebrate your growth, let go of what no longer serves you. It's all kind of themes to do with the full moon. So as I said, the moon's energies can also change depending on what zodiac sign it's in. And I suppose that's all to do with, I'm no astrologist, but that's all to do with where the moon falls in the sky, what alignment the planets are in, also what your sun, rising, and moon signs are, all takes influence over the kind of strongest energies you're going to feel within the moon phases. And so I actually, every full moon and every new moon, I like to put up a post on my page just talking about the energies of the moon, what to expect. And I also have some nice mini rituals in there too, crystals to work with, angels to call in. And I also have a slide that talks about your sun sign and how, whatever themes might be coming in for you and your star sign at that time. I will say that your rising sign, again, will give you more insight, and your moon sign, again, will give you even more depth. So if you wanted to go into a proper reading, you could definitely do that online. But for an example, the full moon in Scorpio would bring intense, transformative shadow work. Scorpio is just death and rebirth, baby. It is just death and rebirth. A new moon in Libra, you could expect balanced, relational, beauty focus. Libra is the scales as well, the decisiveness. And then again, a full moon in Cancer, soft, emotional, inner child healing. Another thing to note is the full and new moons, because of its potent energy, it's also a time that we can really get into the deeper layers of our psyche, our subconscious, and what's going on. So often you might see healers or readers offer more readings or more healings around the time of the full or the new moon. And that's because it's almost like the veil is a bit thinner. So the veil between our world and the spiritual world is that bit thinner. So we're able to kind of access these parts of us a little bit easier and get a little bit more information. And so that's why things like meditating or journaling, energy healing, even pulling cards for yourself, can be a lot more charged and can bring a lot more to light during the moon's charged, potent energy. And so that's why, it's really nice to have a little ritual for yourself. And as well, we always talk about, like, in those rituals, like leaving our crystals out. Our crystals love to be under the moon. But it's very, very important that before you do a ritual with your crystals in the moon, the first thing you need to do with those crystals is you need to cleanse them. So whether that's with salt water, running water, sage, saying a prayer, Palo Santo, whichever way you like to cleanse your crystals is really, really important, because crystals do absorb energy. The next step then would be to set an intention for those crystals. So what is it that you want to really work with these crystals for? Of course, each crystal has its own unique frequencies and healing capabilities, but it's important to kind of put an intention out there as well for what is it that you want to work with these crystals for. Is it for yourself? Is it for a client? Is it for your home? Whatever that might be, and then putting them out into the full moon's energies to really charge and amplify that intention that you have set. Again, it doesn't have to be a full moon that you put your crystals out under. It can be a new moon, or it can be any phase of the moon's cycle. However, the full moon and the new moon will be more potent. And so, I'm always kind of drawn towards the full moon for my crystals, but you need to just trust, again, that intuition, guys. We all have it. And that intuition is our connection to the moon. And it's a connection to our inner knowing. So going with that and asking yourself, okay, what feels right, And I always love, when you put your crystals out, if you can, put them on the earth. They love to be on the earth. The crystals connect to their divine mother and father frequencies and energies when you put them on the earth. So they feel at home, they get to ground, they get to connect to their, mother and father energies. They get to connect to Mother Earth. So they love that. And then going with, your own intuition on how long you want to leave them out for. Maybe it's for one night, maybe it's for 2 nights, maybe it's for 3 nights. Because remembering, although the full moon is like one day of the lunar calendar, like a couple of days beforehand and a couple of days afterhand, you can definitely feel its energy. There's kind of like 5 days either side. I feel that you can really feel the full moon's energies build and then kind of dissipate afterwards. So you can work with its energies not just for one day, you can work with its energies throughout that cycle. So that's why it's nice if you're going to a full moon circle, or if you're doing a ritual, you don't have to do it on the day of the full moon. It can be in and around that kind of time frame. So having a little moon ritual for yourself would be a really nice time to just check in at different stages of the month, whether it's the full moon or the new moon. Check in on where you're at, your intentions, and what it is that you want to call in and what it is that you want to release. Like, whether you're setting intentions or not, guys, we're constantly manifesting our life, like everything around us. Our reality is a result of what we are constantly manifesting. And so why not do that with intention? Why not set intentions of, okay, what it is that you want to let go of? What do you want to call more in of? How do you want to feel? What are you focusing on in this phase or season of your life? And new moon and full moon energies are really nice to do that. So I mentioned how the moon, the feminine energy, is very much connected with intuition. It's also, as I said, the feminine energy, it's very connected to women. And if you think about the moon's cycle, I think the moon has a 29-day cycle in and around, and women have, give or take, a 28-day cycle. Like, for me alone, that's enough information to be like, we're connected to the moon. Like, point blank, period. We're connected to the moon. But like if you think about, like, back in the olden days, they used to use a woman's cycle to to tell the time. So every time the women would come into, their menstruation, when they'd be bleeding, they'd know like the different stage of the month they're in, and then they kind of expect when they're ovulating and then to when they're bleeding again. So they'd kind of use that as like a time frame when to tell the time. And then also they'd work with the moon. So they'd know by the moon what phase of the month they're in, and then that would also help them with the seasons and harvesting and crops and animals and all of that. And I'm not explaining that part very well, but they would use the women's cycles and the moon to literally navigate through life, to bring fertility, to bring an abundance of food and prosperity into their lives. They really, really relied on that. And many cultures like the Native Americans and the Celts and many African traditions, women during their menstrual cycle would have went to like these sacred spaces like red huts. They would all like retreat and come together and bleed together. And that wasn't like out of like a place of shame or to like hide them or lock them away. That was so that they could come together and connect with their intuition, have, awakenings together, just be in that kind of sacred time together. Because as well, our menstruation, guys, is a release. It's a way of our body releasing, the lining that it has built. And it's a massive, massive shedding. So not only is it a physical experience that we're going through, but it's connected to, our emotional, our physical, our mental, and our spiritual bodies. So during these times, it would all come together and just be together for that and connect with their spirituality and share their insights and support each other and nurture each other and hold space for each other. And now we don't do that. What happened? Now it's like, I don't know, it's coming to my mind. Like now it's like, you don't talk about your period. Like if you're on your period, it's like, don't talk about your period. Hide it. Don't don't let boys in the house or dads or whoever see your pads, your tampons lying around. Like there's so much shame around it now, and that's not how it was supposed to be. Like back in these olden days, like the women were like shown to like come together and support each other during this time. And now it's like, oh no, you can't let anyone know you're on your period. Like God forbid you make a man feel uncomfortable, or you make someone feel uncomfortable that you're bleeding. Like what? It's just so crazy to me that there's so much shame connected to it. But I guess that's consumerism, that's the patriarchy, and that's a whole other friggin' podcast. So your monthly cycle is your body's way of checking in with you and giving your kind of monthly health check. And although I know and I can appreciate many people have like things like endometriosis or PCOS, this is your body's way of speaking to you. And I also feel, as a spiritual person, there is a very big spiritual connection to this. Although it's very important for us, if there is any issues around your cycle, to go to the doctor, to get things checked out, because unfortunately things can arise, and there's so many things that women have to deal with when it comes to fertility and the reproductive system and all of that. But I would also encourage people, to look into the spiritual side of it, whether it's kinesiology or energy healing or whatever it might be, because all the bodies are connected. It's not just the physical body. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about the menstrual cycle, since we've got into that chat and that talk. Tampax, sponsor me, please. But I want to talk about the different cycles under the moon. So I used to be a new moon bleeder. So like religiously every single new moon I would bleed. And I think it's so fascinating that as women we have this kind of cycle. It's also quite fascinating that if you live with other women in your house or like in your vicinity, you'll all sync up. Like, isn't that mad? Like, come on. And that's probably so we can all come together in a little red tent and support each other and have sacred space, but we don't do that. But our bodies are still syncing up for us. But basically, I used to be a new moon bleeder, and I really liked bleeding with the darkness of the moon, and I enjoyed it. And, recently, over the kind of last couple of weeks or months, my cycle has changed, and now I'm a full moon bleeder, and I'm like, oh my God, what's going on here? So I don't know if my body has just changed up because it's kind of a different energy, a different frequency. I'm not really sure, but I'm going to read out kind of the guidelines of what it might mean depending on the different times of the months that you bleed. So the white moon cycle is when you bleed during the new moon and ovulate with the full moon. Traditionally, it's aligned with things like fertility, nurturing, motherhood, the symbol of the inner healer, and turned outwards to family and community. So yeah, they're kind of like some traits that you could maybe attribute to if you are a bleeder during the new moon. I mean, I definitely relate to some of them: nurturer, motherhood, inner healer. But now that I've changed, you could be the other side of it. You could be the red moon cycle, and the red moon cycle is bleeding with the full moon, ovulating with the new moon, associated with spiritual leaders, healers, witches, and creatives. Symbol of the woman walking her own path, deeply connected to intuition and transformation. So that's the one that I'm on now. I am bleeding with the full moon and ovulating with the new moon. So guys, these are just the folklore around the moon, its energies, and the kind of the stage of your cycle that you're at. So you might not be bang on menstruating on either of these cycles, but it might just be interesting or fun for you to kind of check in and be like, oh, what cycle am I? Yeah. maybe you resonate, maybe you don't. I always find it just really interesting just to keep track of your cycle. Like, I know we have apps and stuff now to keep track of our cycle, but it's so handy just be like, oh, what phase is the moon in? Oh yeah, I'm ovulating, or I'm due on my period. Hello, Mother Earth is trying to tell us that she has a tracker built in for us. So there's this science-backed theory on light and hormones, and it's to do with women's cycles. So it explains how the moon and light exposure can influence your hormonal cycles. It's to do with your melatonin and your ovulation. So apparently before artificial light, many women would naturally bleed with the new moon and ovulate with the full moon. That's actually really interesting. But today's overstimulation has shifted that. But rituals and slowing down and natural light exposure can help realign that again. So I just found that's really interesting. It's like the theory behind why we bleed with certain times of the moon and why we ovulate at certain times of the moon. But I think it would just be nice for us to reframe our menstruation to not just a physical release or sign of our fertility, a sign of, oh, I'm not pregnant or I am pregnant or whatever it might be, but reframe it to a time of energetic shedding and a spiritual renewal. Menstrual blood being sacred as well. I know many cultures like to honor the menstrual blood. Some cultures will keep the blood and they'll what's the word? They'll catch the blood and they'll use it to put it into the soil, it'll help the plants to grow, or they'll use it in rituals, they'll offer it in different ways to the earth. I think some people even go as far as put it on their face. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. At the end of the day, I think that there is a reason that, the way the world is now and society wants us to get rid of it and flush it down the toilet. There's obviously a sacred energy to it. And so, yeah, I've kind of gone through my own journey of like pads and tampons and stuff. Like, obviously, they're not the most comfortable thing in the world. I did like using the period cup, but I just found at times I wasn't using it very properly, and so it wasn't very hygienic or tidy. But yeah, it's just something to think about. Don't always let society and those around you tell you what you should do with your own body's natural cycles, because I think that there's something powerful with it. And again, if you want to go and fertilize your flowers with your period blood, I support you. I support that. Maybe just considering, how you can bring more intention and more reverence to your bleed. So we talked a lot about the moon's energies and how you can work with it, what we can do. Like I said, journaling, meditating, having intention around the time of the moon's energies, whether it's full or the new moon, can be really supportive of you in aligning with the life that you want, aligning with whatever it is that you like. And so I would encourage you, to set up maybe a little space or a little altar once a month or once every couple of months even, that you come and connect with that moon's energies, especially if you are a woman and you have your own natural cycle that is in some way in flow and in rhythm with the moon. You are so connected and more connected than you think. And so the altar can maybe be journaling, having a crystal, even having a picture of yourself, or little things that represent you to put onto your altar. It could be your sage, your palo santo, your incense, whatever that looks like, and connecting with that space under the moon's energy whenever you feel like it. And of course, calling in your angels. Your angels will be there to support you and help you with whatever it is that you're working with. I want to actually share with you all my own experience with working with the moon and with working with the moon's energies and manifesting. Okay, so as I said earlier on, the full moon is a really, really potent and strong energy to work with for manifesting the life that you want, or calling in whatever it is that you want. And so I have a little story to share on that. And a couple of years ago, myself and my partner and my mom, we were doing a moon ritual together. I love to actually I've always loved to do moon rituals. I've always been drawn to the moon. Actually, aside from that story, I remember as a kid, that you'd look out the window in the car as a kid and feel like the moon was following you. Like, you'd just like driving along, like, oh, the moon's following us. I was just always drawn to it. And I love how, like, when you look at the moon, you can see like the crevices and like the indents of the moon and the different parts of the moon. I just think that's so fascinating. And so I was always drawn to her energy. And even, I suppose as part of a ritual, I know I was mentioning earlier, little things you could do for a ritual. Part of a ritual could be just be moon gazing. Like, just go and look at her and acknowledge her and look at her beauty and look at the stars around. Like, it's really fascinating that that's just above us in the sky. And we really don't give it the time of day, the time of night. But so go and gaze at the moon when you get the next opportunity. But I just remember as a kid always being drawn to her. And I also love to make moon water, which I want to mention actually in today's episode. Um, that also you can do while you're charging your crystals or having a moon ritual. So it's really good to have like a clear bottle, a glass bottle would be amazing. Filling it up with water and putting it out in the moon, let it charge in the full moon's energies or the new moons, and with the intention of it cleansing and purifying your aura. So I love to charge and make moon water, and then I drink it for the next day or a couple of days to follow, and I just feel like it's just cleansing me from the inside out. It's so nice. And it's always really cold too when you bring it in from outside, which is really nice. Well, not always really cold actually, depending on the heat wave we just had. You could be having boiling water. Um, but moon water is a really, really nice thing to do as part of your ritual too. But anyways, back to the story. I was making moon water during the specific ritual that I was doing with my partner and my mom. And so we were getting our bottles of water, we were leaving them out. We were also writing down what it was that we wanted to release, which we then burnt. And we also wrote down what we wanted to manifest. And we also burnt that too. And I think the intention with that was to like release it into the universe, that we weren't going to like hold on to it, or because sometimes when we're manifesting things we can kind of have like the lack mindset and we'll keep checking in and be like, is it coming, and that actually then in turn makes it not come. So the intention with that was to like release it and trust that it was going to come to us. So one of my manifestations that I wrote down in this moon cycle was one of my manifestations that I wrote down under this full moon was to get pregnant. So I think I wrote down I wanted to get pregnant like within the next 2 years, and I wanted to be pregnant with a boy. Now I've always felt throughout my life that I would have a boy first as my first child. I guess it was just an innate knowing, mother's intuition, I'm not sure. But I always felt that, so that's why I wrote down boy. And ironically, a couple of months later, I did get pregnant. So it was much sooner than the 2-year time frame that I had wrote down. So be careful what you wish for, is what they say, because sometimes it can come in quicker than you expect. But I ended up getting pregnant, and it was a boy. However, it was only when I was pregnant and I realised that my partner also wrote down during the full moon manifestation ritual that we were doing, he wrote down a baby. I also found out that my mother wrote down a baby, so she asked for a grandchild. So lo and behold, 3 of us under this full moon, by the way, none of us knew what each other was writing down. We all wrote down a baby. So I don't know if maybe by the power of 3 or something, it like amplified it and like brought it in like super quick for us, but I'm pretty sure it was like no more than like 3 months after that I was pregnant. So there you go. That's just my little story on working with the full moon and its energies and manifesting what it is that you want. And of course, if it's aligned with you and it's for your highest good, then it's going to come in anyway. But the moon's energies can just help to amplify that. And intention is what I will say. It's always important to have an intention that is loving, that is pure, and that is for your highest good and the highest good of all. But yeah, careful what you wish for. Next, we are going to do our Cosmic Confession segment, which is the part of the show where you guys send in your queries, your questions, your dilemmas. I go through them, I answer them, and maybe give my 2 cents or my take on whatever it is that you are sharing. So for today's listener emailed in and she said, "Hey girl, loving the podcast. It's my favourite part of my week." Oh, thank you. "I'm reaching out because I'm looking for some advice. I'm 24 and I've always been spiritual in some kind of way, even when growing up. But this last year, I'm going to say I've grown more into my spirituality. I've truly struggled this year, like many others I'm sure, with not fitting in, feeling different, and feeling everyone's energy feelings all the time, and it has really taken my spark away. During this time, I've become more into signs, Reiki, grounding, tarot cards, and the list goes on. I went to my first Reiki session and the lady told me I was a healer and that I would heal myself and others. Not sure how, in brackets. But I feel like I'm late getting into this side of things because from social media, people who are into woo-woo seem to have always known, and I guess I feel I was late discovering this part of myself. Do you think I'm late discovering this part of my journey? And have you any tips for me as a newbie coming into the more spiritual world? Thank you for this podcast. I feel like I have finally found my people. Have a great week." First of all, thank you so much to that lovely person who wrote in. I really just want to acknowledge where you're at and holding space for this beautiful spiritual journey that you're on. Thank you for sharing that. And I know for sure you are not alone. And there's many people like myself or someone else listening who can resonate to you. First of all, no, you are not late discovering this part of yourself. Some people never discover the spiritual part of themselves, and that is okay. We are all on a different journey and a different path, a different timeline. So first of all, the fact that you're even exploring things like Reiki and tarot and grounding is incredible. You're 24, you're so young, and so many people I feel don't really explore the spiritual parts of themselves until they get later into life, and it's kind of like one of those untouched surfaces. They're like, okay, maybe I'll go and dabble in this. For sure you are not late. And please don't look at the people online who are into the woo woo have always known. They haven't, and maybe they have. We can always compare ourselves out of our own journey and where we're at, and I really urge you not to do that. Yeah, there's some people who have always had this divine and spiritual connection and have been able to see spirits or angels or just had that sense of connection from when they were kids, and that's incredible. I'm not one of those people. I wasn't seeing angels or anything when I was a kid. We all have an intuition, we all have a gut feeling, and I definitely had that when I was a kid. But, my experience was no more amplified or supernatural than the next kid. So please don't feel like because you're only at this point in your journey and now only discovering it that you're behind or that you didn't have this innate knowing. It's all to do with divine timing, is what I'll say to you. And it's incredible that you're even holding space for this. And I think it's really important that you said that you're practicing your grounding as well, because that's so important in reminding you not only to ground your energy and connect with Mother Earth, but ground into your position and where you are at in your journey right now, and grounding into your own timeline, and that you are on the right time, the divine timing, and the right path, and trusting in that. So just to reiterate, it doesn't matter if you're 24, 44 or 84, you are on your divine timing, and we will discover and explore and become curious about these things when the time is right. And the fact that you even have that kind of natural curiosity around things like Reiki and tarot just shows that you already have that innate connection and that innate wisdom, and shows that you have that natural spirituality within. It also makes, incredible sense that your Reiki practitioner said that you're a healer. And that's so beautiful, and what a wonderful thing for you to hear. And one thing I would like to encourage you is that yes, you could be a healer. There's so many healers out there, but you're not responsible for healing anyone else. You can only heal yourself. And I think that's really important for this listener, and maybe anyone else who's listening who's in the kind of healing space, is that you can't heal anyone else. You can simply hold space for their own healing to happen. Whether you act as a channel, you call in angels, you work with Reiki, you work with Rahani, whatever that might be. You're holding space for their own healing to happen, but you are not healing them. However, you can heal yourself. And so by working on your own healing, by working on yourself, by doing your own healing with your Reiki, whatever it might be, that's what you can do, and that's your power in this. And thank you so much for saying, that you enjoy listening to this podcast, and that it's become like a highlight of your week, because that's what I want. I want this to be a space for us to come together. These people who are spiritually curious or exploring these parts of themselves, it's a space to come together, explore different topics, and to feel like you belong, to feel seen, and to feel connected. And you're in the right space. And I hope that you stick around. And I'm wishing you all the best on your spiritual journey too. Please don't put any pressure on yourself to be in any position or place right now that you feel you should be, because that is society, and what you're doing, girl, is not society. It is intuition, it is your inner knowing, and it is your connection, and you're on time. Just to touch on as well, the sense of kind of feeling like you never really fit in and stuff like that. I think I kind of mentioned in this episode too, the moon, some of us will just kind of have that innate sense of like not really feeling like you belong, feeling like an outsider, and that's very normal if you are a healer, a light worker, or anything like that. So what I will say to you is, it's so important for you not only to ground, but to find what does light you up, to find whether it's the hobbies or the things that make you happy or bring you joy, because through those things you will find your people. And so often you're not meant to fit in because you were born to stand out. And I know it's cheesy, but it's true. You were born to bring your light into this world. And sometimes that light is uncomfortable or too bright for some people, and that's okay. But your people will love and appreciate your light for what it is. So it's about finding those people through following your passion and what lights you up. And you will connect and find those people. But stick around here, because you're so welcome in this Cosmic Conversations community. And we're happy to have you. So thank you so much. For the last part of today, we're going to do our affirmation of the week. I don't know why I made up a little song there. We're going to put our affirmation of the week. You guys know I use my own affirmation deck. They're launching very soon, by the way. So if anyone wants to purchase an affirmation card deck, Keep an eye on my Instagram at thecosmiccoach.ie or Cosmic Conversations Pod. There'll be more on that coming soon. I'm also going to be running a giveaway very soon. If you've made it to this far of the podcast, I'm going to be running a giveaway. It's going to be giving away one of these beautiful decks, affirmation card decks, and also a service with me. So that's coming very soon. Keep your eyes peeled. It could actually be live right now by the time you're listening to this. But the affirmation of the week is, I'm a powerful creator and I create the life I desire. I swear to God, you probably think that I pull these cards on purpose to go in theme with the episodes. I actually don't. But this goes so well with the moon episode because we talked about the full moon and the new moon energies. We talked about manifesting and setting intention and calling in what you want and calling in your heart's desires during and under and with the moon's energies. I am a powerful creator and I create the life I desire. So put intention behind it. What is it that you want? What do you want to call into your life? You are constantly creating the life that is unfolding in front of you. Constantly. Your thoughts, your actions, your feelings, everything is creating the life that is unfolding around you. Work with the full moon's energies. Remind yourself of the affirmation. You are creating your life. You're a powerful creator. So create the life that you desire. Do a full moon ritual. Call in what you want. Create the life that you desire. Maybe that life that you desire, it doesn't have to be like what people tell you it should be and having millions and going and living abroad and whatever it is. No, the life that you desire could simply just be one of happiness and having, successful relationship, or maybe having a baby, or maybe it's getting a promotion in work, or maybe it's getting some good news about your health. Whatever that might be, you have the power to create your reality. So remind yourself of that. Use that affirmation this week and work with the moon's energies. If you feel called to, remember that you have your unique connection with the moon. We all do. So honor it. Thank you for tuning into Cosmic Conversations. If you enjoyed this episode, then please let me know. Maybe consider leaving a 5-star review or a comment on what you thought. I'd love to hear suggestions and feedback on any topics you'd like me to explore or unpack, or maybe a guest that you'd like me to have on so I can pick their brain. If you have a cosmic confession or a dilemma that you'd like me to explore next week, then please send it my way on Instagram at Cosmic Conversations Pod or email thecosmiccoach.ie@gmail.com. Thank you and see you next week.